Hey guys, how you doing? I hope everybody's well. In this video, we're going to talk about the DNP, the Doctor of Nursing Practice, and my feelings on the DNP. And it's probably going to upset some people, but I think if we're all honest with ourselves, I think we're probably going to agree more than we disagree on my opinions. But anyway, everybody has their own opinions. So again, before we go any further, this is obviously my opinion, and we know that everybody has opinions. But perhaps after listening to what I have to say, this might lead to you saving a little bit of money, not to mention your time. So here it goes. I don't believe that the DNP is worth a whole lot of your time unless you truly have nothing better to do with your time, or if you're looking at ways to just get rid of a lot of money. Now, if you have an employer who is willing to foot the bill, the entire bill, then go ahead and go back to my first statement. And if you really have a lot of time in your hands, then go for it. But when you do get your DNP, I want you to check back with me and let me know how much value the DNP has really brought to your life. I'm curious. I'm curious to know. So let's just be honest for a minute. Take a look at today's DNP curriculums. They're literally going in every direction. And some are bringing in the bachelor's degree student and bringing you right straight up through the DNP, including nurse practitioner training. Others are giving you coursework in nursing education. Some are focusing on nursing administration. It seems all of them have a mixture mixed in there of diversity, equity, and inclusion coursework. Now, I'm not saying that all these courses are bad. Some of them are probably quite good. But in my opinion, it's the DNP framework, the underlying framework, that makes this such a essentially a meaningless degree in the eyes of so many people, and people that you're going to be asking to employ you. And that's my biggest issue with the DNP. It's become this catch-all degree that has no foundation. So when I pursued my DNP, it was still a very new degree. It was 2009. And it was intended really to serve the practicing clinicians such as the nurse practitioner or the nurse anesthetist. It wasn't long, though, before the DNP was really being retooled and sold to nurse administrators and educators, as well as clinicians. And so what does this DNP really mean? I couldn't tell you. And I'll bet that if you're honest with yourself, you probably can't tell what it is either. So the DNP came along at a time when other health professionals, such as pharmacists and physical therapists and occupational therapists, starting awarding doctoral degrees to their graduates. Now, I'm not sure how those degrees were born and whether it was out of necessity to provide more training or just to charge a few more dollars beyond the master's degree. I don't know. But nursing couldn't be left behind, of course, and began telling us that it was important to represent the profession by obtaining the terminal degree for practicing clinicians. That was the practice doctorate, or the DNP. Okay, I fell for it, and I thought I'd be on the cutting edge of something very new in education. Well, being honest with you, it didn't change my life in the least. It didn't put more money in my pocket, not that it should. Getting more education shouldn't really be about getting a higher salary in return, but it didn't make me a better NP. I didn't get better at medical decision making, and heck, I didn't have professors who really had much in the way of practice experience anyway. But let's face it, with rare exceptions, that's kind of how education goes today. You know the old saying, those who can do and those who can't teach. I know that sounds very generalized and not applicable to every single person who has ever taught in a classroom. But again, if you're honest, it's more true than not true. So the DNP is the result of taking a bunch of extra classes, some maybe interesting, some indoctrinating to the new religion of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and some totally worthless to the individual who's administering care at the bedside. Recently, I've had many honest souls tell me that their DNP experience was equal to that of maybe another master's degree. And I think that's pretty accurate. And again, I can't say that every DNP program is just a glorified master's degree, but really that's kind of making my point that there's so many different DNP programs out there that follow the very broad, very nebulous AAC and DNP essentials that were adopted way back in 2006. And if you're interested in reading that, I'll leave a link down below, like I said. But in that document, do read it. Pay attention to how many times it says the word practice in it. And yet today, the DNP has so little to do with most aspects of true practice education. So why is the DNP so unfocused? I mean, why has it lost its way? I mean, my opinion is that it's purely because of money. Once schools realized that there were employers that were willing to shell out tuition reimbursement money, they couldn't get their DNP programs up and running fast enough. Also, I think that many nurses see the DNP as an easier way to get a doctoral degree. Again, we're being honest here. I felt the same way. Back in 2009, I really doubted that I could endure the rigors of a PhD program. But I also thought that I wanted to continue practicing as an NP, and I had very little interest in teaching full-time. As a result, the DNP made more sense to me. But what we're seeing today in the nursing profession, what we're seeing today is a short supply of PhDs in nursing to serve on faculty positions. Enrollment in PhD programs is way down, especially up here in the Northeast. Why? Because I believe more nurses are being fed the lie that the DNP is just another label for a PhD, and thus they're opting for the quicker DNP programs. And I have no doubt many schools are hiring DNPs as tenured faculty because there just aren't enough PhDs out there to draw from. But here's the raw and honest truth that everyone who is either thinking about a DNP, in the process of getting one, or currently has one should consider. No one, not even in this year, 2023, heading into 2024, outside of nursing, knows what the heck a DNP is, or what it means, or what the letters stand for, or what you had to do to get one. And we're talking about a degree that is now present in just about every graduate degree granting college of nursing in the country. And it's been present for decades now. So do you really, for example, do you really know what a traditional pharmacist education is and what a PharmD is, or what additional courses a physical therapist has to take to be awarded a DPT? I have no clue, but you see, that doesn't really matter because they're still pharmacists and they're still physical therapists. Nurses, on the other hand, they get their DNP and suddenly they're kind of all over the place, wanting to use the title doctor and further diminishing the significance of other nurses that they work with, like the diploma nurses, the associate degree nurses, the bachelor's degree nurses, and so on. So I know, again, I'm generalizing, but this never-ending argument of the DNP wanting to be called doctor is still being argued, and argued mostly by DNPs themselves. You see, DNPs can't even figure out what they just achieved or what they want to call themselves. And it's important to consider that despite the DNP having been around now for, 20 years, pretty close to 20 years, most nurses can't define it or what it really signifies to others. You know, I had to laugh a little the other day. I signed into Facebook, which is something that I rarely do, and I saw a young nurse who I worked with in the emergency department a few years ago. She had since moved out of town, moved down south, and she was celebrating her graduation from her DNP program. And of course, she was referring to herself as doctor. And I swear, there's just no humility left anymore. I mean, technically, yes, you've achieved a doctoral degree, but just chill out and go easy on the need to put doctor in front of your name. I never did. As a DNP, not even when I was teaching adjunct, and sometimes my name would be put on a course syllabus with doctor in front of it, and I would ask them to remove it because even though I had expectations for a great future for the degree back in 2011 when I finished it, I knew back then that it wasn't the same as a PhD or certainly an MD. So I've said before that, I'm all for getting letters after your name because I think it gives you flexibility as the years progress, and some of those letters might be the tiebreaker between you and someone else when it comes to a job. But it doesn't mean that you have to use every one of those darn letters. I mean, yeah, I'm guilty of putting PhD and DNP and MS and NP after my name on this channel, but it's intended to give the viewer a sense of my background. There's a ton more letters that I could add, but that's pointless and adds nothing to what I'm trying to achieve. So let me also say this. I'm not intentionally picking on those who've achieved or are working on their DNP. The vast majority of you bought into the same lie that I did almost 15 years ago. Most of you are hardworking academics and nurses, and whatever you've learned in your DNP is yours to keep, and no one can take that away from you. But the real culprit here is organized nursing itself, who comes up with these benchmarks and tells everyone how much better off they'll be once they reach this degree. To show how old I am, for example, this same argument was being made for the master's degree when nurse practitioner education really started taking off up here in the Northeast. When I enrolled in my NP program, we were band-aided as a master's prepared NP program to precept with a master's prepared nurse practitioner. Well, in the city of Syracuse, New York, there were exactly 8 master's prepared nurse practitioners back in 1992. I mean, how dumb, but that was Syracuse University. And there were many more highly experienced NPs out there, for sure, with diplomas for their RN, diplomas for their NP, no college degree whatsoever, but they would have made excellent preceptors, but we couldn't use them. They weren't worthy of teaching a student of Syracuse University College of Nursing, which, by the way, doesn't exist anymore. Wonder why. So the nursing, as a profession, continues its disjointed approach to improving on a great product, the NP, by creating more hoops to jump through. So if you're thinking of enrolling in a DNP program, I simply suggest that you do a little research first and really think about why you want to work towards that degree versus some of the other maybe better known and understood programs of study, such as the MBA or the MPH, Masters of Public Health, or even, dare I say, a law degree. I mean, don't forget, lawyers are granted the Juris Doctor, but you don't see them running around calling themselves doctor. So if your goal is really to teach, then bite the bullet and get the PhD. There's simply no comparison between the DNP and the PhD regarding expectations, rigor, and the ultimate meaning of the degree. So don't shortchange yourself for some short-term benefit. Yes, the DNP is quicker and it is easier, be honest. And at least in my opinion, among the nursing world, it's become as common as the master's degree. And I don't believe that that's a good thing, because I remember somebody saying once that if it was easy, everybody would do it. And maybe that's the moral of the DNP story. Thanks for listening. If you appreciated what I had to say, please leave a comment and like the video, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.